This episode of Speakers of Eidolon is made possible by our generous patrons. Special thanks to our Supreme and Master Speakers Omeji Cat Comet, Erisu Yamakawa, Circuit Barrakiel, Alex Franco AV, Winebow Brood, Psyche, Asuta Starbreeze, Cletus Oreo, Nina Grimsdaughter, Nat Clay, Lily Black, Bob Cece, Mikta Rabentau, Sapa Chakwatol, Edwin, Arcadia Lunashine, Umbral Wind, Quick Levin, Pamela Isley, Camille Grino, Elenriel Maximus, Coderith Novelist, Mira Miri, Bay Barbale, Suno Chicano, Celestau Natrell, Lazy Boy, A Bag of Dragonite, Luke Osborne, Pandaloo Stormarrow, Tex, Kylin, AJ Brainswordson, Anathus Moonscar, Arthur Law, Biridan Derard, Psypup, Spencer Christmas, Noy Fafnir, Cheshire Saltiri, Celine DeLune, and Wubsta Wolf. Support the show and become a patron today at patreon.com/SpeakersXIV. Thank you.
This is Speakers of Eidolon.
Good evening, Eorzeans. Welcome to Speakers of Eidolon, episode 302. I'm Lakeel Bravestone, and I'm joined today by Georgi Wiston and Mela Vana'Diel. Hey, welcome. We are
still not ready. Still not used to getting into the 300s, are we?
No, it's gonna take a while. Also, Rollo isn't here because he's moving. That's a joke. He's not moving again. He's busy, so he'll be back next week. Today's main topics: there was an interview with Yoshi-P with there was an interview in the Japanese game magazine Game that has some very interesting points that we will be discussing today, as well as lots of other things, but also we are going to talk about Final Fantasy XVI having had its trailer dropped, because it's quite significant for many reasons. One of them being that a lot of the people that have worked and are working on 14 are also working on 16. Also MogMail, speakersxv.com/MogMail, to send us your MogMail. Stay tuned for the post show. We'll be answering questions from the syndicate, and that's the show. I think we can just jump into it. Here is recent events. Right. So, in recent events, we have, I guess we can talk about the, spoiler warning, I suppose, because we are going to talk about the Make It Rain event right now. We're going to review it. So if you, for some reason, don't want to get spoiled, you can mute us, and you can just look at this slide, and when that slide switches, you know we're done.
Wait, what?
Wait.
Say that.
Okay. That doesn't look to be correctly. That is, we are not doing. Okay, if you've muted, unmute now, because you might be confused looking at that slide. We are not doing the Yoshi-P
If you've muted, unmute now.
Whatever. We're not doing the Yoshi-P game interview. We are doing the Make It Rain. See, this is because we did this last minute. I didn't remove the text on the slide. So that's spoilers for the last slide. That is the title for the last slide. All right, anyways.
That's not the image, though.
That is not the image.
Well?
That is not the image. I just slapped the image in and didn't remove the text from before. So that's what's happened here. Anyways, Cact Pot, not Cact Pot, Make It Rain 2020. I'm going to fix that while we're talking about it.
Okay.
So this event is ongoing. It's the summer event in 14, if you will, other than Moonfire Fair.
The summer event.
Yeah, and the actual summer event.
Summer event.
Yeah.
This is the pre-summer.
Yeah, it's the pre-summer. Well, depends on who you ask, because we have had this discussion before about like when does summer and when do the seasons begin?
It's summer now.
Yeah.
It is summer now, yes.
But it's the pre-summer event, then it's Moonfire, then Rising. Well, the whole,
Yeah.
It's quite a short event.
Yes.
But it's interesting because although it starts in Uldar and you'd expect to go to the Gold Saucer, no. We go to Lompsa Lampsa.
Lompsa Lampsa.
Can I say, I was annoyed that it started in Uldar, and then because I was in Limsa already, and I was like, oh, the event starts in Uldar. I'll go to Uldar.
Yeah.
And then like, let's go Limsa Laminsa.
Yep.
Yeah, they're trying to spread the joy of gambling to the pirates.
Yes.
There's not enough people go, apparently.
No. So you meet the little Sabatender, and it's trying its best, but people are not impressed.
He's sad.
Well, they don't have context for him, so
No.
because he can't speak.
No.
I still don't like their name because presumably it's Senor Sabatender. But because it will not show the tilde on the N, I cannot read it as anything other than like Senor Sabatender. And it's so annoying.
Senor.
Like, hello, Senor.
Yeah. So essentially, it's just one of those help him out quests where
it's very weak.
It is
very weak.
I didn't mind this one because I thought it was like it didn't try to be anything more than it was.
That is true. I'll at least agree to that.
I will say I'm always fascinated by, because a lot of the times they will use seasonal events to be like sort of a testing grounds for other systems, and I don't know if this is something new, but if it isn't, it's something they use very rarely. But so at some point you get to talk to him. You have a list of things you can ask him.
Oh yeah.
As you ask them, they get grayed out instead of being removed from the list.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Which I
It's
thought
something
was...
that I'm not sure I've seen.
Yeah.
They didn't get grayed out for me. They were removed.
They were grayed out.
No, they got grayed out for me.
Yeah. Maybe
Like
you
if you
just
said-
don't remember it, but it definitely happened.
You remember when you had to ask him about the four, like...
I know what you're. Oh, those ones. Okay.
I see. Yeah.
I thought you were talking about when you went to the other people after you went
No,
through
no.
that.
Oh, no,
section.
they disappeared.
Okay.
Because
No,
that
that's-
was just
that's
you being
fine.
stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially, he's not. He can't talk while he's in costume.
No.
To keep the illusion up that he's actually a cactus. And so you agree to be his spokesperson, and you go and talk about the four main parts of the Gold Saucer. It's drinks, or there's the four like interesting things about the Gold Saucer that aren't as well known. So it's like cuisine and drinks, the hot babes.
Yeah.
In cool costumes or whatever.
The ease of getting there.
And the ease of getting it, yeah. It's like riches to be had, which surely is the main point of it. But then you have to go and talk to four different people.
Yeah.
In any order you
Did you do all of
choose.
them on the first? Did you all do all of them on the first go?
I got
messed up
3
one of
out
them.
of 4. I didn't get the pirate captain lady on the first try.
Yeah,
I
fuck,
completely
yeah.
forgot
Roswell.
about her love interest.
Yeah, that's one.
I knew about the love interest, but I was like, surely that's not the answer here.
Yeah,
and I was annoyed
she
because
wants,
that was my
she wants
second
treasure.
choice.
Yeah.
Because she's a pirate.
That's what I thought too. That's
Yeah.
exactly the one I went after. Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah,
got the
but then when I was like, okay, yeah, fine, she wants to do something with Carboline.
Yeah.
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 You talk to the Bismarck owner. You talk to not Sissy Poo, the leader of
Wawalargo.
the fishing. Wawalargo, yeah. And you
And then
talk
Kyokurun.
Kyokurun.
Which
Who
I'm surprised by, because I didn't think he'd be allowed in there, because it's technically part of Uldar.
That is true.
True.
I guess it's not the city itself, which is the only part that has the basement ban, but like, I know, I thought it would have extended to the Gold Saucer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice though. I like the way they shake. Constantly shaking. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
just twitching all the time, bless them. And then that's pretty much it. Then they get a call from the Gold Source to say abort, something's gone wrong, and you're like, oh no, what's gone wrong? Too many people because they all liked.
We're suffering from success.
Yeah. And that's it. And then it leaves you in the hallway towards the airship landing.
I really like, though, like, because they give us the emote, the present left to right, whatever it's called. But during the quest, when you introduce the Sabotender, that's when you do it the first time, which is kind of funny. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Can I say,
Go on.
I'm surprised we don't have a Sabotender outfit already.
Yes, I was thinking that for the whole thing. And then I was like, maybe there's something new in the price that I'm not seeing. No, nothing. This feels like the time of year they should add Gold Saucer, like, glamours.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they never seem to do that.
Well, I think it's going to be saved for a future Make It Rain event.
Oh, yeah.
I guess, but...
Sure.
Yeah, it's not like it's definitely not the best Make It Rain. It's not an amazing event. But partway through, I got scared that we were going to have a repeatable quest where you can talk to up to 12 NPCs and have different and I don't want that.
No.
I'm glad it was just a short event.
Yeah.
Like that, but yeah, I understand
Not every
why
time.
you wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
Not for Make It Rain.
No. And again, I mean, Make It Rain is sort of a special seasonal event, because you never really know if you're getting a full quest line or if it's just the season. But hey, we got something. So I'm not...
Yeah.
It's different when we judge or review Make It Rain, I think, because...
Yeah.
I thought this was a very middle-of-the-road seasonal event considering all the ones we've gotten this year so far.
Yeah.
It's not the worst.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's true, yeah.
We've had some bangers for Make It... The investigation ones really do something for me. I enjoy them a lot.
Yeah, we do get those occasionally, but I think they don't want to do them every year because one, I think it would get old, and two, it's quite a lot of effort for them to put into it as well.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm fine with this. It's fine. We still get 50% extra MGP for 3 or 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, and if you've done the Endwalker storyline, you will see some Loprits in
Oh yeah.
I didn't have a hang around yet. That's cool.
You can hear them by their humming.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so there you go. Make It Rain 2022. It's worth doing. I mean, if only for the emote, I guess. I mean, technically 2 emotes, isn't it? So
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
The emote surprised me that it has the visual effect with it as well.
Yeah.
I agree.
That wasn't made clear from the screenshots to me up until now.
No.
Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah.
Although apparently they stack and you can make an obnoxious cloud of emotes, so that's cool.
Yeah.
We should try and do that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's Make It Rain 2022. Moving on to the special site. There's been an update, or a couple. I guess we'll just jump into the website and have a look at what's new. So we have, the usual stuff that we've seen before. I really should have just clicked the...
We haven't looked at the Thornton model, by the way. We didn't cover that when it was uploaded, because it was the only thing there.
Oh, God.
It's beautiful, but it's on the wrong
I know, it's very white, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very cool. There it is, a render. This really hurts my eyes. But...
Dragon King Thornton.
Yeah.
Yes.
Such a good
stop looking
ultimate.
at it.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. That was. I mean, there's just pictures that's been added.
Mm-hmm.
Sickard. He's here.
What's that lad doing?
He's up to something.
You said Sickard, and it is Sickard, but for some reason I thought you were saying Sigurd, and I was like, from Assassin's Creed.
No.
Sicko?
It's Sickard. I love yeah. Oh,
He's
God.
a goodie boy now.
Stay on what I click on. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. That's intriguing. We're going to dive into his storyline.
They had told us that it will be us saying thank you to all the NPCs that helped us through the Endwalker storyline, so I guess we're starting in them. So.
Yeah. Then there's this. It's very intriguing. Picture for the Omega Beyond the Rift storyline. We're going to talk to the Watcher, so maybe we'll learn more about him through Omega.
I thought we'd be traveling with more than just Alpha and Omega, but I'm happy with that. I'm fine with that. I thought other NPCs would get involved because there's Wedge.
Yeah, we do.
I didn't expect this at all. I expected just straight up just Ultima Thule, and that was the main goal. But interesting to go to the moon.
Yeah, because Omega is
very interesting to stop by the Watcher.
Yeah, because a lot of people wanted to know more about. I mean, me included. We don't know anything really about the Watcher, so
who is that lad?
To learn more. Yeah, is this also on the moon? It's hard to tell.
No,
this looks like.
This looks like Thormazine.
Yeah.
I think this is.
I love that I've to shield my eyes for the lights. Yeah.
I think it's where the Ragnarok is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we probably are going to Ultima Thule as well.
Yeah.
It would make sense with the name and the context of the zone.
Yeah. Okay. Somehow further Hildebrand adventures. Not many. I mean, it's Hildy and
Nashu Maracas.
Yeah.
So Hildy is on the first, but Nashu is in Thavnir.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This means nothing to Mela contextually, but this is very interesting for Lakil.
Well, I know. I do know he. Was hard blasted off.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens to her.
Well, Nashu wasn't blasted off.
She was actually.
Was she? Oh yeah, everyone was. Even yeah. You're right. They were blasted off. So she must have made it back then, or I don't know.
Has she always had a plaster on her face?
No, I don't think.
Oh, it's been
that's been a while.
I haven't done this in Stormblood, so I don't remember. No wait, only Hildy got pulled into the. Oh.
Sure, Nashu got pulled into the portal. I think she jumped in after them. She was last.
I don't remember.
You're gonna have to use your new game plus.
Yeah.
And do that last quest again to get the.
Yeah, she did fall
back in the mood, I guess.
Yeah. I do have a memory of her going in there as well. So I think.
Because I remember it looking very weird because as she was going in the portal, she was doing her jumping animation.
Right. Okay. Well, the spoilers are on the website as well, so there you go. This is big hype. The Arxidara tribal quests.
Hippoplotamus.
Yeah.
I think
this is go on.
I would have preferred if it was just a hippopotamus.
100% agree.
Oh yeah.
The
200% agree.
Because we don't have the physics for this. This will look stupid and dumb when you turn.
This makes sense for the quest line because we see them racing them.
Yeah.
But then let's just ride on a big floppy hippo.
I think we all agree.
Small hippo.
Is that a small? That's a Rogadin riding that though. It's pretty big.
Those are pretty huge though.
Yeah, maybe it's a big.
Think how big the Marid is.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe it's a baby.
Hippos are like the sizes of like a large cow.
Yeah, I think that's pretty.
Maybe.
I mean, this it's hard to. I don't know if it scales with the race or whatever. I don't know. It's hard to see the scale here. And then, of course, the thing that I've dreaded the most: custom delivery.
Nice Amelians in her correct outfit.
Yeah, and
a woman. Who is, I don't know, a servant of the house, a scholar.
She looks like a scholar based on the outfit.
Is she from the Studium?
Possibly.
I always assume she's from the Studium, but I have no idea.
Okay.
I believe that's all that's new.
All right. Yeah, that's that. That's what's
not a lot to go on. But,
no.
Nice of them to update us, I guess.
Yeah. We are, of course, just a few weeks. Oh, no, a week? No, less than that.
It's a week away.
Yeah, it's a week. Yeah.
It'll be up by the time the on demand is out.
Yeah, you're right.
Already be playing it.
Podcast.
It's on the 7th, yeah. So it's wild.
So drop a comment about how wrong we were about everything.
Yeah.
Let us know.
I always hate that because we, in that sense, our podcast is at a very inconvenient time because it's always like right before a patch is released. So we're always slightly off when we go on.
Yeah.
But oh well. I guess we'll mention this. The Lyse outfit is now on the Final Fantasy XIV Online store.
Congratulations, Lyse.
It's gender locked and undieable.
It's a onesie. Yeah. Undieable.
There's one
for
part.
women.
And interestingly, the hairstyle is gender locked as well, which I think is the first time that's been the case. I could be mistaken, but normally, even if you buy the outfit for the opposite, and it's a character's outfit for the opposite gender, you can still use the hairstyle.
It's the kind of person Lyse is.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's always been gender locked, and Emmerich was the only exception. Okay.
Very selfish. I wouldn't. I personally dislike all the like NPC outfits.
I think it's kind of stupid as well.
Because I prefer to just see them on NPCs.
Yeah. It kind of ruins the uniqueness of the characters when you start seeing
the hairstyles, maybe.
But I will say, they often release them long after we've seen them. Yeah, so...
That's the saving grace of them.
Yeah.
Like, we can't use Y'shtola's... We can't use Y'shtola's current outfit, can we? I could be mistaken. I don't keep up with the Final Fantasy XIV online stuff.
Same.
The only thing that it would be positive about this, you can clearly see it has a chest piece, leg piece, foot piece, arm piece. Mm-hmm. Just break it up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, the thing is...
It's odd that they're so restrictive about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they program them as like one set when they make them for the NPCs because they never intended to break them up. And then,
and heaven forbid they put in an iota of effort for the ones
that's what I'm thinking as well. Like, why?
It's also go on. It's also because like some of these physically change the model of the character using them. Like Minfilia's makes your bust larger, and then Heian's gives you larger musculature. So like, it's possibly affecting like the whole character model, not just like a layer on top of it. That's why.
I think the outfit is sort of a whole model in itself. So it's hard to chop and change.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there you go. There it is. If you want to buy that, you can. I have never seen the appeal of just looking exactly like an NPC, knowing that you are not that NPC and you look like a cheap.
I can understand it if you're just want to take screenshots. I don't get it if it's people that want to go through the MSQ like this.
No,
it would feel very. It'd take me out of it.
Yeah.
Also, this is Lisa's This is Lisa's worst outfit.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Anyways, you do whatever you want. I don't care. Yeah. But you have the option.
Whatever.
Okay. Next, we did this. We read a part of this interview a couple of weeks ago, but it wasn't last week. It was the week before. Was it? Or was it last week already? Time.
Don't ask me.
What is time? This is the second part of that interview. This was done to commemorate the 20th anniversary of Final Fantasy XI. This one, we decided to read this one because it has a lot of... there's some interesting stuff in this interview that's not just tied to 11. So that's why we're reading it. So let's jump into it. So this is with Naoki Yoshida, and of course the director of Final Fantasy XI.
The boss man
on the right.
Matsui. Producer Matsui.
Yeah, producer Matsui.
His first name is Producer.
Yeah. Yeah. Matsui. I don't remember. God, I'm sorry, 11 players. I don't remember any...
That's okay. Let the memories fade, Lukiel. let those memories be filled with better memories.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump into it. Development. So this one just assumes you've read part 1. So here we go. We're just jumping straight in, as we say, in medias res. Development based on personal experience as a hardcore MMORPG player. Mr. Yoshida, I hear you have quite the background in playing MMOR. Oh yeah, there's also this mysterious third person that is not given a name. So that's asking questions.
Interviewer, sorry.
Yeah. I hear you have quite the background in playing MMORPGs. What was your first experience with the genre? Yoshida says that'd be Ultima Online, which I'd played since beta. Before I started, people were talking about how you defeat deer to obtain materials for sewing a vest, which could be sold for a high price. It made me go, what on earth are they talking about? And that intrigue was how it all started. And sure enough, when I started playing, I found myself defeating deer and selling vests. For me, earning money in this manner while also making myself stronger was a very new game experience. Yeah.
That's fair.
It was also an enormous shock when I learned that 3,000 people could play at the same time. Before that, Diablo was the only online game I knew, so I'd always thought of 4 players as the maximum. There's also some disclaimer, like just some asterisks
for those that don't know.
For the Zoomers,
who don't know what Ultima Online and Diablo are.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to explain these. You don't need
maybe
to.
We have
these.
Zoomers. Ultima Online is a game released in 1997. See, so I wonder if we have.
Well, that's probably what your parents.
A lot of when your
here's
parents
the thing.
were born.
I know we have viewers that are younger than that.
Ultima Online is a game released in 1997 and is widely considered to be a pioneer of the MMORPG genre. Yeah, if you're into MMORPGs, you should know of Ultima Online. Diablo, again, I feel like most people know, is a hack and slash game released in 1996 by Blizzard Entertainment and is considered to be a pioneer of multiplayer online role-playing games.
I thought it was a pay-to-win mobile MMORPG released yesterday.
I wouldn't describe it like a hack and slash.
It is. It's an ARPG.
It's a hack and slash. Diablo.
I do understand there's a... Yeah, I can't... Because for me, hack and slash feels third person.
Roguelike.
No.
No. Diablo is definitely...
Well, it's a rogue...
It's hard. It's Diablo.
It's a procedurally generated ARPG.
Yeah.
It's a roguelite. Because just the fact that like 3 out of 7 classes in Diablo 2 at least don't even use like magic classes.
Yeah. Dungeon crawler ARPG is probably a more accurate term for it.
Have you ever thought about Yoshi-P, like 20-year-old Yoshi-P playing Ultima Online?
I mean, it evokes jealousy in me, Georgi, because what a dream, eh?
Yeah.
Just chilling playing Ultima Online, back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Just hunting deer and selling vests.
Matsuyu says, considering how the game allows users to place objects on the overworld, I can only imagine that it involved an outrageous amount of data traffic. Yoshida says, it's actually not that bad. Ultima Online features isometric 2D graphics rather than 3D graphics. The overworld is also designed as a grid with designated patterns for the cells, so the system only thinks about changing between different cells, similar to the meshes of modern standards. It was an ingenious idea that even allowed game masters to rewrite cell information in real time. It's an incredible design. I believe it's a quintessential sandbox MMORPG that remains unsurpassed even today.
I think I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
In some respects. Ultima Online was very unique. Like, you could just have a house anywhere, and, like, there was a person who assassinated Lord British.
Right.
What a
yeah.
It's maybe EVE Online would be a better sandbox potentially, but very different genre. But it's hard to get a sandbox right.
Yeah, it is. It is. Because what often happens in sandbox, can happen in sandbox games, is that you have a sandbox MMO and then the players are like, what do I do? What is going on here? Where am I? Why am I naked? All right. Matsui says, assuming you were already a game developer by that time, did you have any interest in creating an MMORPG yourself? Yoshida says, I did. I'd say I wrote my first proposal for an MMORPG after working in the game industry for about 3.5 years. Back then, Hudson Soft believed they would eventually need more than their existing series in order to stay in business, and often held contests for new projects. I wrote 3 proposals or so around that period, one of them being a space exploration MMORPG.
Oh.
Incidentally, the other proposals were to bring back Dungeon Explorer as a multiplayer title for the PlayStation 2 and a multiplayer FPS. Okay, so we don't have to really explain what Hudson... I think it is interesting that Hudson Soft merged with Konami in 2012.
They were the people who made the smash hit Bonk.
Yes.
I think we've talked about that quite recently.
We have. They're also obviously Hudson Soft has also obviously made Mario Party and all that. So we've definitely talked about this.
That's what I primarily know them for. And Bomberman, actually.
Yeah, and Bomberman, yeah.
And Bonk.
Yeah, and then Dungeon Explorer. This one might need some clarification. Dungeon Explorer is an action RPG for PC engines released in 1989.
I mean, that predates all of us except you, Lucio.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it. So you'd been warming up to the idea since the golden age of MMORPGs, says someone. I'm assuming the interviewer. Yoshida says, at the time, Hudson Soft had developed equipment for the PS2 and knowledge of internet-related specifications, so I felt we could make an MMORPG. With that said, I was a PC user even back then, and I remember writing the proposal while thinking, if it's going to be an MMORPG, it should be on PC. Were you also a PC gamer when it came to online games, Mr. Matsui? Matsui says, yes, I was. However, it was the opposite for me, where it was the lack of online games for the PS2 that inspired me to purchase a PC.
Okay,
there you go. Mr. Yoshida, you mentioned you were hooked on Ultima Online, but what did you think of EverQuest, which was just as popular? Again,
Weird slant.
EverQuest is an MMORPG released in North America in 1999. I mean, EverQuest is also like one of the big important
it's
pillars.
the first theme park.
Yeah.
MMO.
Yoshida says, I played a little bit of EverQuest, but thought getting hooked on this would interfere with my everyday life and fled to the Dark Age of Camelot. Oh my god, we're going to have so many references here. Beta test.
PvP one.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
I was actually quite busy with Bomberman 64, The Second Attack, when EverQuest launched.
Wow.
So I was a latecomer to the game. And when I finally got around to playing it, I ended up not sleeping a wink until I reached level 8. So for those that didn't know, Dark Age of Camelot is an MMORPG launched in 2001 by Mythic Entertainment. The game focuses
on Mythic.
Yeah. The game focuses on combat and exploration, with large-scale realm versus realm battles being a notable characteristic. Yeah, that's a big one. Matsuya says, considering EverQuest's game design back then, reaching level 8 must have taken a really long time. Yoshida says, it sure did, laughs. My coworkers were also so hooked on EverQuest that they never logged out, let alone came to work.
That's the problem.
If I wanted to get in touch with them, it was quicker to catch them in Norath, the setting of EverQuest. One of my senior coworkers who lived across the street from the office was scheming to hook up the company's internet to his apartment, which was obviously completely out of line. Laughs.
That's funny.
Jesus. Matsuya says, those kinds of stories were common during the golden age of online games, weren't they? Laughs. Yoshida, when I came to my senses and realized this could be a serious problem, that was when I heard that the beta test for Dark Age of Camelot was about to begin. So instead of aiming to be the best in the world in EverQuest, I shifted gears and set out to achieve that in Dark Age of Camelot.
Okay. Crack fiend going from one drug to the next. I don't want to get addicted to this one. Maybe this one's a bit softer.
Yeah. You were quite famous as top ranker in Dark Age of Camelot. During this peak of your MMO lifestyle, the Final Fantasy series announced their emergence into the MMORPG market. What were your thoughts on it back then? Yoshida says, to be honest, it seemed very obvious to me that the game would basically be a Final Fantasy version of EverQuest. I really agonized over whether or not to play it, but the more I looked into 11, the more it reminded me of EverQuest, the game I'd been running away from. So you believed EverQuest and 11 would be very similar? In my opinion, yes. I saw it as using Final Fantasy to spread the MMORPG genre. However, 11 wasn't the first instance of that sort of phenomenon, which was always been common in the game industry. It was in the same vein as, for example, how Wizardry and Ultima are computerized versions of tabletop RPGs, TRPGs, or how Dragon Quest and the Black Onyx are RPGs that were localized into console games. I see. Yoshida says, with these things in mind, and the fact that I was already aiming to be a world-level ranker in Dark Age of Camelot, I was thinking I could start Final Fantasy XI a little later. However, I still kept an eye out for information on the game and often theorized on the reasoning behind their implementations. For example, with the mob tagging system, where the first party to attack a monster gains possession of it, I imagined it was intended to prevent console players from competing over monsters. So Final Fantasy XI was a subject of research for you. Yoshida says, yes, that's right. As someone who'd played various MMORPGs, I thought it'd be best to let everyone attack the monsters and have the loot distribution based on contribution. The mob tagging method would just end up with players competing to be the first to attack monsters, and the risk of players using external tools to directly attack monsters' packets. And I remember thinking it was a bold choice for the development team to make.
You're just saying it was a little bit of criticism.
Idea. Yeah. Mob tagging is not a good
It's a bad system. It
is.
It discourages team play, essentially.
Yeah.
And yet they brought it back in Eureka.
They did. Yeah, they did.
Clever.
A lot of MMOs have brought that back, like that system. A lot of MMOs still have that system, so it's interesting. Matthew says, at first, I was also hesitant about the mob tagging problem, but after our team tried playing EverQuest, I felt that vying over loot wouldn't mesh well with the personalities of Japanese players. Vying over loot means you need to speak up and argue for yourself when there's a debate, or directly confronting the opposing party for your own benefit. Because Japanese people tend to struggle in those areas, we placed system-side limitations to make it as fair as possible. We also removed all hints of PvP elements that might lead to a hostile environment, such as player killing and kill stealing for similar reasons. Do you want to know what kill stealing is? Well, here it is. Kill stealing refers to defeating a target that is already engaged in combat with another player to usurp the reward.
Usurp?
Yeah, that's right. Usurp. Yoshida says, the concept of thinking ahead of the players to protect them is a very console game-like mindset, and I think it's very good. On the other hand, determining loot distribution based on damage dealt is easy to understand and feels fair, even if it doesn't go your way. It's not really a matter of which method is better, since both have their pros and cons. Matsuya says, in our case, I feel that we adopted a system that better suited Japanese players who were new to the MMORPG genre. Speaking of systems, were there any other parts of 11 that stood out to you aside from its garbage collection? So in the first part, we didn't read the second part of... So this might sound weird, but in the second part of the first part of this interview, they talked about garbage collection in 11 and how good it is.
Is there anything that stands out to you about 11 other than it's garbage?
Well, here's what garbage collection is. Garbage collection is a feature that automatically frees up unused memory space. In the first part of the interview, Yoshi-P was speaking very highly of 11's garbage collection system because it is very good. Yeah. Yoshida says, the question of how should we turn the Final Fantasy series into an MMORPG where players share the same world was answered by using the self-expressive job system from Final Fantasy III and by placing emphasis on the storyline in an MMORPG, which resulted in Final Fantasy XI. I believe Mr. Hiramichi, that's Tanaka, made this possible as the person who brought Final Fantasy III into the world. Not just simply creating an MMORPG, but one with a Final Fantasy-style storyline. It was an innovative idea for MMORPGs, and Final Fantasy XI is without a doubt the first MMORPG to achieve this. That's true.
It's definitely the first very story-focused one.
Yeah.
To go from making 3 to making 14 1.0. And then to sadly get kicked out of the company because of it.
Yeah.
It's a sad story.
It's a sad story.
Yeah. The fall and further fall of Hiramichi Tanaka.
Yeah. Which is, I always think the way he was... we don't know what happened to Tanaka, okay?
No, he went from game director to programmer to cleaner, and they just pushed him down the ranks.
He was put back in 11, but I think you're onto something though, because I think they lessened his workload over time,
Yeah, they did,
and then
yeah.
eventually he just had to like.
That's a very common Japanese business tactic to put people into positions that may even be like technically higher up in rank, but like have less responsibility, and then they eventually leave because they get the message that like we don't need you here anymore.
Yeah,
I just stay and get the money.
Well, that's very depressing.
Yeah,
for some people.
Yeah, Tanaka. Yeah, like I was gonna say, the Tanaka. We're reading about 11 now, and it's essentially Tanaka going in to make a game with that still in his mind. Like the 11. I mean, we've talked about this to no end before, so we're not going to go back to that. But yeah, Tanaka is still a great director and producer. Back then, I just don't know if he didn't adapt, and that's what it's
sadly.
sad.
Which is a shame because he adapted quite well for 11.
Yes,
it's just at a certain point he stopped adapting.
He
got stuck in the past.
He looked backwards when he was making 14 instead of looking ahead. So that's what happened.
Needed to research current MMOs and see where the genre was going.
Yeah. Okay, Matsuya says, to tell the truth, the Final Fantasy XI development team also had people who believed stories were unnecessary in MMOs. So, and that's very common, like for classic MMOs, was that they were very light on story. It wouldn't be.
It was all like background lore. It wasn't something you were taking part in.
If you wanted to know the lore of an MMO back then, you'd have to like commit to that. Like there would be there would be stuff online for you to look up and shit, or lore books, as in the case of World of Warcraft was like interesting in its approach, but I feel like that's
Warcraft
more the modern
had
one.
previous lore though, with
yes,
the
it was
games.
Building on something else. So
that's why it was so
I
successful.
had whenever I briefly stepped into World of Warcraft is that whenever you talk to a quest NPC, you would get dumped with this long list of like text, which was very unappealing to read.
Yeah. Let's just say, we're not saying that old MMOs didn't have lore. Lore is different from having
they had
story.
As much lore as 14.
Yeah.
Or most MMOs. Sometimes more, sometimes less. They just didn't present a storyline like 11 and 14.
Yeah. So, yeah, 11's development team had a lot of people who believed stories were unnecessary in MMOs, so the planning stage of the game didn't consider a story as one of the main pillars of the game. At the time, most MMORPGs required you to spend most of your time leveling up, so players' gameplay time and levels were all over the place. On top of that, their story progression would also vary, so the question was how we'd keep everyone on the same page. Then the interviewer interjects pointlessly, so there were opinions like that after all.
Well, he'd been thinking about this for years.
Yeah. Matsuya says, again, delete that line. You don't need it, because Matsuya literally continues as if that interview didn't say anything. However, the Final Fantasy XI development team at the time had Mr. Kato and Mr. Kigoshi, who argued that it was precisely because of those reasons that it would be meaningless for us to create a game without emphasis on story. We were fortunate to have them, since if our development team only had system-oriented people like me, we probably wouldn't have been able to create the game 11 is now. So, background on these people. Masato Kato is the game planner who was in charge of 11's plot up to Rise of the Xylart. And Yosuke Kigoshi is formerly a game planner for Final Fantasy XI. Yoshida says, about how many people were involved with Final Fantasy XI at the time? Matsuya says, that would be anyone who wasn't working on Final Fantasy IX and Final Fantasy X. Wow, what a golden age right there.
I know.
People working on 9, 10, and 11 like at the same time.
We really did live through the peak of Final Fantasy's history.
Yeah, and that's crazy because Final Fantasy 9 is a PlayStation 1 game, and Final Fantasy X is a PS2 game, and then you have 11, which is a hybrid PS2 PC game. Jesus Christ almighty. All right. That would be anyone who wasn't working on 9 or 10, which were being developed simultaneously. It was a joint effort between the Parasite Eve 2 and Brave Fencer Musashi teams from Osaka and the Mana and Chrono Cross teams from Tokyo. With the sheer number of people we had, it almost felt like we were destined to make something great.
I guess. A lot of people, yeah.
Yeah.
From a lot of random different, like... Parasite Eve, okay.
Yeah. Yoshida says, with a roster like that, anyone assigned to the scenario team would be eager to create an amazing story. Laughs. Matsui says, I'd think so too, and then he laughs. Yoshida says, power is essential to game development, by which I mean something like a tremendous enthusiasm or strength in numbers. In Japanese, we often poke fun at the phrase, strength is the true power, but it's not exactly wrong. In the past, I asked Mr. Sakaguchi the candid question, would you have commanded everyone to work on Final Fantasy XI? To which he laughed wryly and answered, I would have waited till the very last minute, but would have gone through with it if necessary. So obviously, Sakaguchi, you should all know, is the one of the founders of Final Fantasy.
Never heard of him.
Didn't he... No, never mind, I'm mixing them up. That would have been a textbook example of all hands on deck. Yoshida says, perhaps that's how society accomplishes things when they really need to succeed. There may be varying opinions regarding how that style puts ongoing projects on hold or causes development to stagnate, but I'd say that was the culture or attitude of how things were run in the game development industry back then. Matsuya says, that's exactly what it was like to create an MMO... Oh no, my computer's scrolled. Oh god, save it. Here we go. So you believed we're almost there.
Yeah.
Garbage collection.
That's exactly what it's like to be an MMORPG.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. Yeah, there we go. To create an MMORPG during the golden era of online games. We're all going to make an MMORPG atmosphere was a greater cause that individual developers couldn't turn down in favor of other projects. And it also felt like running away from MMORPG development would make you a coward.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
You don't want to be known as that in Japan.
No. Going back to the topic of stories, Final Fantasy XIV's storytelling has also received high praise from from around the world. As the director, did you always have a Final Fantasy style story in mind for Final Fantasy XIV? Yoshida says, a story was essential since there'd be no point in making a Final Fantasy style MMORPG without one. Furthermore, seeing as our goal was to create a numbered title to become the next Final Fantasy XI, I personally wanted to challenge ourselves to create an MMORPG with a story focused around one player. There still weren't any MMORPGs where the players were explicitly told, you're the hero of the story, so I wanted to delve into that concept and have players save the world in a straightforward manner.
That's an interesting point, though, because that's sort of why MMORPGs are the way they are, is that you're all just part of this world. So
yeah,
it's pretty bold to just be like, you're the main character to everyone. And it works in 14's case, but I don't think it would work too many other times.
Well, it's the direction they've taken WoW hasn't, isn't it? Like, because originally it was more so with WoW, like you are one of the many, and now it's like you are actually very
your
important.
Hero.
Yeah, they've
definitely they've pushed right in that direction.
Because originally,
I think a lot of people don't like that.
Originally, you were just witnessing events.
You're just an adventurer.
Yeah. Okay. I suppose your development experience with Dragon Quest X Online played a large part in that. Yoshida definitely agree. Yoshida. Oh, sorry.
Yoshida, I definitely agree.
Sorry.
Yoshida,
the formatting of this in our doc is fucked. Yoshida, I definitely agree. MMORPGs are constrained by how they can't have player characters speak. But even then, defining them as your story will enhance the player's immersion and game experience. I see. So that became one of the contributing factors to Final Fantasy XIV's great success. By the way, I heard that early on in 14, you held back when it came to making the player character emotionally expressive. Was that another aspect of making the game feel more immersive? Yoshida says, that was because when players are still unfamiliar with the game, depicting their characters with over-the-top gestures runs the risk of the players thinking, that isn't me. More recently, however, since 14's story has progressed and presumably strengthened the bond between the player and their characters, we now depict emotional expressions quite often. Yeah.
Which is, for the most part, works, but as we saw with the ending of Endwalker and how people respond to Xenos it sometimes can be jarring.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true. You're kind of taking some of the RP elements out when you sort of force your character to do something.
Yeah. Matsu says, I know what you mean. There's a considerable number of players who find it jarring when cutscenes force their character to express a certain emotion without their consent. Yeah. Delving further into the story aspect, 14 features the names of monsters, weapons, and actions which originated from Final Fantasy XI. Was it the idea of former Final Fantasy XI developers to include these references? Matsu says, it's not something we planned out extensively. That being said, Final Fantasy XI and 14 are the same in the way that they are both MMORPGs in the Final Fantasy series, and both borrow monster and item names from previous titles, so it's somewhat inevitable that they'll feature the same names. Furthermore, the proposal for Final Fantasy XIV originally began as a successor to Final Fantasy XI, and intentionally included elements from 11. As for weapon names, considering how 11 incorporates references from various mythologies, it'd be harder to make sure there aren't any overlaps. Then he laughs. Yoshida says, the 14 staff in charge of lore and items have a great respect for 11, so I believe the references come from their playfulness and their strong feelings towards previous titles in the series. Mr. Hayashi, in particular, has a long history of developing items for Final Fantasy XI as well, and he seems to bring over certain names that would evoke the memories of players who have played Final Fantasy XI. I've never given him specific instructions regarding that aspect, but I do ask him to check with me when he'll be using the name of an item with great importance to the series. And Hayashi is the lead item designer for 14 right now.
Heihachi.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Hey, yeah.
Sama.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. We already know 14 was 11 HD.
And I mean, like, it is easier to port over models that already exist and visually update them a bit than start from scratch.
Yeah.
I agree, but then you get some that are like, it's just an 11 model, and then you get like the really cool new ones.
I mean, but now Mailer, they've also started doing that with 12, 13, and 15 models as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
That's the nature of Final Fantasy. We get like models from other games. That's just Matsu says, it's honestly quite a struggle to give names to things in long-standing titles like 11 and 14. Yoshida says, job names are especially tough. Laughs wryly. After all, there's no point if a job is similar to its namesake in a name only. Its gameplay experience needs to match their pre-established design too. At this point, I'm thinking we have no choice but to come up with brand new jobs that haven't appeared in the Final Fantasy series before.
Line that everyone latched onto when they heard this interview.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I don't want to be able to keep predicting.
He has said this before as well. This isn't breaking news. They've talked about wanting to make brand new jobs for a while.
I mean, even Sage, like, it is a job that has existed before, but it is in no way similar to what we have in 14.
True. Yeah,
exactly.
That's true. Okay, so we're almost at the end. I certainly see why, considering there was already 22 jobs in 11 and 20 jobs in 14.
We're going to catch up to them.
Yeah,
we're going to catch up.
One more expansion.
Well, if we get to next expansion, yeah.
Oh, don't say it like that, like we're now going down to just one every expansion.
I wouldn't be surprised, Mela.
No.
It's very hard to balance 20 different jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was the game they've chosen to make.
You essentially got 3 new jobs with how Summoner changed this expansion, Mela.
And especially,
that's a fair point, actually,
also consider the fact that we have 20 jobs now in 14, 8 years in, and 11 is 20 years old, and it has 22 jobs. So they've had lots of time to like balance and prepare for that.
Well, they've paced themselves better, but they set a precedence with 14 too early.
Yeah, they set a precedent with 3 dungeons every patch, and that's been going down as well, Mailer. So
to my chagrin.
Okay, so Matsu says, as long as new game elements aren't being introduced, new jobs are designed to fulfill a battle role that can already be filled by an existing job. That said, we can't release a superior version of a certain job, and a new job that offers the same experience as an existing one would defeat the purpose of adding a new job. In that sense, it's very difficult to come up with a new job.
So they can't make, like, Blacker Mage, which is even stronger than Black Mage?
Yeah. No, they can't.
Black Wizard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Black Wizard.
Black Wizard.
Does, yeah.
Does, like, its Fire 1 is just flare, and then it gets stronger from there on out.
Yoshida says, from a system perspective, if the number of jobs is fixed and well balanced, there's no need to add more, and adding new jobs would obviously cause a stir. But nevertheless, we always need to add more jobs to keep providing new gameplay experiences. Matthew says, back in Chains of Promethea, we were heavily criticized by foreign media for releasing a new expansion without any new jobs. Considering that, we might say it's a rule of design to provide either a new job or playable race as the main feature of a new expansion.
It is exciting. It is very fair that, like, you should always have one or the other, if not both.
Agreed. But it doesn't have to, like, if you didn't have a new race or class, but had, like, a third type of raid series or something, I'd still be okay with that. Or, like,
Well, the thing is, that's not sexy in the sense that it doesn't come with the expansion itself.
Oh, that's true.
That is something that gets built on.
That's true.
That's true. But they've set themselves up nicely with limited jobs. I know people didn't like it, but I think it's a clever system to make it just fun OP jobs to play around on.
Yeah.
I mean, they're essentially very expansive mini games.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Okay, well there you go. There is a third part as well, and I'm sure we'll cover that as well when it comes out. Probably next week. I think it's one per week.
Far too many FF Roman numeral acronyms.
Yes.
Yeah.
So many.
It does get a bit busy like that.
Yeah. It's interesting to look at, like, I mean, this is a 11 interview, but it's more about just like game development in general.
Game development.
Yeah.
I find that interesting.
Yeah.
I like hearing about not just the good old days, but what game development was like back in, like, the 90s and 2000s. Much more interesting than it is now, I think.
Yeah.
I like hearing Yoshi-P talk about his opinions on game development in general, rather than in specifically relationship to 14 and now 16.
Right.
Well, he hasn't really talked about 16 yet, but
no,
he's very just straightforward with it and just gives his opinion, which I like, rather than being all, bit coy. He's just like, this is good, this is bad.
Like trying to maintain a mystery to the process of game development.
Yeah, just tell us. It's fun.
And this interview reminded me, like, this is very interesting because 11 was made in the golden age of MMORPGs, but also the golden age of, like, Final Fantasy. Like,
oh yeah, I was thinking about it recently, thinking like, we've missed so much of Final Fantasy, like, and because a lot of it was in the 80s. But then I was like, no, we've seen most of the games released over our lifetime.
Yeah, that's true.
And how big the gap is between games now, and how good it was back then.
Yeah,
I think most people would argue that the golden age was 6 through 10, and some people would include 11, especially now that people are more open to including the MMOs in the series as part of the mainline series, whereas before they were more so, well, that's different.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Yeah. Okay, that is we discuss Vana'Diel Part 2. Stay tuned next week for the continuation of that. Well, you mentioned 16. We must acknowledge that it has been it's happening. 16 is real. We even have a release, not a date, but we have a time. Summer next year. So it wasn't as ready as we thought it was when it was.
Well, they say that essentially the gameplay parts are finished. It's just it needs.
They need
to be honest, it doesn't surprise me that, like, a modern game from this era requires a year's worth of polishing.
Well, yes, but go back to when this was the first trailer was dropped, and I think
a year ago.
Yeah, a year ago. in this room speculated that it would could release this year. I think it was all of us. We were like,
it had the potential to. It really had the potential to.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'd much rather it have that year of bug fixing and polishing.
I was worried that it was that far ahead. Like, if it would release like last year, like how long have they been working on this? So yeah, give it a good polish, give it a good rub. So let's talk about 16 a little bit. I know that we're a 14 podcast, but this is a new mainline Final Fantasy game.
We've not had this since.
And 15? Our boy,
the PlayStation 4,
Yoshi-P is leading the project, and a lot more, which we will get to. So I mean, it's important to cover. Okay, so after the trailer was released, before it was released, Yoshi-P was like, okay, we're going to start doing interviews and all that, and essentially saying it's on now. The PR machinery has started up. We're going to start giving out a lot of stuff, and boy, did they. So I'll read this statement from both Yoshi-P, but also Hiroshi Takai, who is the director. So Yoshi-P is the producer, and Takai is the director of Final Fantasy XVI. So I'll read Yoshi-P's lines first here. Hello, everyone. I know how long you have been waiting for this, so it gives me great pleasure to announce the release of our latest trailer, Dominance. In previous interviews and updates, we didn't delve too deep into details about the game's system, but hopefully with this preview, you were all able to get a better picture of what actual gameplay will entail, namely high-octane battles featuring our protagonist, Clive Rossfield, wielding a full arsenal of attacks unique to the game's many icons, which are summons, not to mention epic clashes between the icons themselves that put you right in the action. The team, under direction of Hiroshi Takai, has entered the final leg of development and is focusing on polish as they continue their march toward Master Up and launch. I, for one, would like to personally thank them for all the hard work they've put into the project. With the power of the PlayStation 5 behind us, we're looking to take you on a seamless, story-driven, white-knuckle ride that will rival even the most thrilling roller coaster. So buckle up, the wait is almost over.
Well, I don't like roller coasters, so that's not very appealing to me.
So the most interesting word in that is seamless.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Because so this is not going to be. So we're already starting to see it now that we're actually getting games that are just made for the PS5. Because there's been a long time where games have just been produced with PS4 in mind. Because who owns a PS5?
Not enough people have one.
But now this is not going to release on the PS4 clearly, and seamless implies there's not going to be loading screens. So they're utilizing the full power of the PS5's.
I have a deadline now, thankfully.
Yes, you do. Everyone has a deadline.
It's a good deadline. It's a year from now, so you have plenty of time.
Come on, Sony, you're right. Got a year.
Yeah,
hurry up.
Yeah,
figure it out.
You're very likely to have to get it within like a bundle with like a game and maybe like
that's fine.
That's how I got mine.
Just make it a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want it with like in FIFA 2022. Thank you. Sorry, that's not going to be a game.
No,
I should have picked Madden 2022.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is from Takai. First, allow me to apologize for making everyone wait so long for new information on Final Fantasy XVI. But the good news is it's finally here. In our latest trailer, we've introduced several new icons, as well as provided a more detailed peek at our action-packed battle system and the freedom it gives players. As for development progress, I'm happy to announce that the game is fully playable from start to finish. Though for optimization to brush up, there is still a mountain of challenges to tackle as we head into our final push. Until then, please stay tuned. We'll do our best to not keep you waiting too long before our next update. Hiroshi Takai, Final Fantasy XVI director. Yeah, the game is fully playable.
There are QA players that are playing through the whole game right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. So, yeah.
Keep your eyes out for those PlayStations. There are some available in the UK right now.
I mean, again, you have a year to get it, but you're gonna get one. If you want a PS5, you're gonna get one. I think if you just need to look out for them. Set up like, reminders, or like, a lot of stores have that option, to get like an email when it's in stock. I think a lot of stores still do the lottery thing. Just join all of them. Maybe you'll get one. The reason why we're talking about this specifically, though, is because we now also know who from the 14 team has moved over, or not moved over, but are also working on 16. Obviously, Koji Fox, now confirmed to be working on Final Fantasy XVI. We already knew that, but now it is confirmed. Localization director. We also have Minagawa.
Presumably has a very important role because they're starting with the English dub and going back to the Japanese version for for the voice acting.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
So Minagawa will be art director. Takahashi will be character designer, and of course our own Masayoshi Soken will be the composer.
If you've watched the trailer, you can already hear it.
You can hear it immediately. The music is great in that trailer.
And don't forget Kazutoya, My Hero.
Oh yeah, My Hero, of course. Creative director and original screenplay. Right? Yeah, they will be writing the story.
And if you enjoyed... Don't think about it, Realm Reborn. If you enjoyed Heavensward, that's a good sign.
Yes.
And Heaven,
I would say 16 is in very good hands with this crew. So, yeah, that's very exciting.
It would be very hard. With this cast, it would be hard to miss. So, fingers crossed.
Yes.
I'm big excited for 16. I don't think I've been excited for a new Final Fantasy game for a long time, because 15 I didn't have a PS4, so I didn't play that until the Winners Edition.
Right.
13... Let's not talk about that. 12, I didn't like the combat of, so I didn't get into it, which has not been since like 10.
Right.
Which is ages ago.
Yeah.
I remember getting that on PlayStation. We got Final Fantasy VI on the PS1 when that released, and it had a 10 demo disc on it. So you could play the 10 demo, and then it finally came out. Back in the days when PS2s had blue bottoms on their disc. I loved that. Man, I'm excited.
It's also interesting because we know, like, 15 was like the last game that I really waited for, but then it just kept falling apart. Like production development, it was just a nightmare.
15, remember, was originally 13.
I know.
Versus 13. It was
the PS3.
Yeah.
Which I remember so vividly, like being like, oh, I bought a PS3 for that. Never obviously got to play Versus 13 on it. So 15. Then it came out and I didn't play it very much. So this one has probably a really smooth development, or I mean, they're done. The game is done. They're literally on the polishing phase. It's a unified team. They all know each other, most of them already. They've worked together for years. So this kind of feels like, this is a weird comparison, but it almost feels like for Silent Hill, like Team Silent just working on a new Silent Hill. Do you know what I mean? Like it's because they all know what you need for a good game. Yeah. All right. So moving on to MogMail. We need to read MogMail. MogMail is next. All right, let's have a we can cram in MogMail. Let's have a look. All right. Oh, no, we don't go back here. Sorry. I was distracted because people were saying we were disconnecting, but we've literally dropped no frames, so I don't know what that is all about. All right, MogMail. Let's jump into the first MogMail. Here we go. From Rosa Frandilla from Diablos. Hi, speakers. I had a dream last night about a new system in Final Fantasy XIV, possibly something they could do in Island Sanctuary, similar to gardening. In it, you had 3 types. I love that we're starting this. This is a dream. by the way. Here's a dream. In it, you had 3 types of pets. A cat, which would just wander around, a dog that would find rare items, and a kangaroo, which could also fight, act almost like a chocobo companion. So as to make them different, you could use different foods, and you couldn't see the next type until you had unlocked the one before. While not necessarily as I described, what would you think of a pet system where we trained animals, and what other ideas do you have that they could do? Would you be interested in something like that in Island Sanctuary? Have you had any dreams with something you might find fun related to 14? Rosa Frondilla, Diablos, Ragnarok. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Island Sanctuary remains a mystery.
What's the reward for raising the pets?
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
You can't give people a system without a reward.
Well, the dog finds rare items, Mela, and then the kangaroo is like a chocobo companion, so it helps you fight.
Mm.
The cat is purely aesthetic.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
You know, just like real cats.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they would keep pests at bay. That would be nice to have the cat just do like constantly keeping. Let's say that your crops could be attacked by rats, but if you have a cat, that won't happen because the cat will kill them. Yeah, I don't know. What is a pet system where we trained animals? I mean, I want Pokemon, but obviously we're not getting that. But
it would be nice if they. I think one of the most interesting systems they've made in this game is the chocobo breeding for the gold source of racing.
Yes,
but I don't like chocobo racing particularly much. But that idea of having like the pedigree stats and working towards like a level 9 max stat high pedigree chocobo, I always enjoyed that. So maybe you could work with other. Yeah, maybe like. I don't know what the end goal is there. It's not like a mount or something, is it? So
that's the thing about this whole Island Sanctuary thing is like what is the incentive?
Exactly.
Like, because they.
I know it's just a chill, but like it needs some reward or something to gain from it.
Because in the end, this is a video game. Like, there has to be something to give us that, you know, to want to be there. But
they'll probably allow you to farm things, farm props.
Yeah, maybe.
If they can get a proper like the gardening system just for everyone, it'll alleviate almost all the complaints about.
That's
not all of them, but a lot of the complaints about housing.
Well, not completely comparable because of how bare bones the system I'm about to mention is. I feel like this is this expansion's version of like airships and submersibles.
Also, would be okay with that because I quite like that system.
Yeah.
But more in depth.
Yeah. I would hope so. I've been caught. I don't really want to like dream like too much about what what this could be. But I mean, obviously, we always pull comparisons to like Animal Crossing with this, which is why I feel like they've pushed it back because they kind of panicked because everyone was like, oh, this has to be the most ambitious thing they've ever put in the game. They're like, no, it's submersibles, but you know, so I was hoping we would be able to like customize, you know, our little island, which I think they've sort of kind of told us that we are able to. They've
implied it, haven't they?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, it would be cool if furniture would be compatible with Island Sanctuary, so you could use housing
you could
items.
dump all your stuff there.
Yeah. I've said this that I would be fine if Island Sanctuaries only allow you to use outdoor furnishings, because as it is right now, they're very restricted.
Yeah.
You can only have 20, 30, or 40, depending on the size of your house, and then the storage is only that large as well compared to the 200, 300, or 400 stored items you can have in a house.
Yeah.
So, like, just having another location to store outdoor furnishings would be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was a breeding system, maybe that could tie into the submersibles. So, like, you have a ship and you crew it with animals, I guess.
Yeah.
And then if you have really good bred animals, they get better rewards or something. Like, similar other MMOs have those sort of, you know, things where you send them out and wait.
If you're farming certain things, like sheep, maybe that's particularly appealing to, like, certain markets, and then because of
like
who you're trading
trading
with, you'll get certain things in return.
Yeah.
So depending on what you choose to farm will depend on what rewards you might get from it.
Yeah. But it'll probably just be like a circle of island, and you can pick between 3 different preset like buildings, and maybe you can get a minion out.
Maybe, but remember, this will be the base island sanctuary. This is probably living content that will get stuff
100%.
added as well. So
Ideally,
I don't
yes.
mind if
But
we just get 3
it can't be
skins.
Rubbish on launch, because they will all lose faith immediately in the system, because they've hyped it too much.
They've kind of shot
even
themselves
part
in
of
the
it's
foot.
our fault, but
Yeah, I'm gonna say I don't think they've hyped it very much at all.
They haven't, but
they've not told us enough.
But they know how this works, because they were like Island Sanctuary. They even released artwork of it, and we're like, Island Sanctuary is going to be incredible, minion stuff, stuff like that. And then they're like, oh wait, hold on.
Well, that's the main thing that has been promised to us or confirmed to us, is that it's a place where you can have minions out and about. That's one of the highlights of the artwork, is that it features a lot of minions in addition to the horse and the chocobo.
Yeah, but I don't think it matters if it's shit, because some people are going to love it, and it's not going to be it's going to be instanced most likely. So if you don't like it, you're just never going to see it, and it's not something that necessarily needs a lot of maintenance on the development side. It's
more of a vibes than a plot mechanic.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. Thank you, Rosa. Remember, you can send in more MogMail at speakersxiv.com/MogMail. We have to move. So now on to our main story. Yoshi-P.
What a normal pitch to use.
I know.
Where's the wine?
There is no wine. This is a plain picture of Yoshi-P, and I'll tell you the reason is I already had a tab open with the We Talk About Vana'Diel interview, and they had that picture in it. I'm like, I'll take it. So there you go. Next time we do a Yoshi-P interview, there's going to be so much wine. There'll be more wine than Yoshi-P in the slide, I promise. All right, so this is more of like a bullet points thing.
It's a short translation of the highlights from an interview.
Yes, this is the interview done with Game. That's the magazine. It's translated. This translation is provided by Reddit user M Killerby. So there you go.
Thank you.
Since the implementation of duty support in 6.1, the number of new players starting the game has increased, and especially in Japan, people who were hesitant about the MMO genre are coming in. Because of this, he still thinks there's potential for further growth in the Japanese market. He also says he's happy there's been so much feedback from the new players, saying it's easier and more fun than they imagined.
So,
that's good.
To go with our great discussion from last week, I think this shows that it's been a success.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the main story for 6.1, he gave the direction that the dialogue should have a positive sound to it. For example, while it may have been in character for Y'shtola to have a sarcastic line when you meet up with her, that could make a negative impression. With how Anne Walker wrapped up the story arc and sent the characters on their own paths, for the next patch 4 months later, he wanted the reunions with characters like Y'shtola to have a positive vibe to them, in keeping with setting out on a new adventure.
That is fair.
Yeah.
Because this was quite a pleasant patch compared to what we've been experiencing up until now. The only really dark parts are the parts that are set in the void. And there's not much context to that right now.
True. He also comments on our reunion with Estinian. Based on what happened in Endwalker, you'd expect Estinian to get tricked again, but then it turns out he knows it's a scam. It's a fun scene because players have traveled this far with these characters and have seen Estinian's character growth. Yeah, that was a neat moment.
True. Yeah.
He was a bit worried people would forget who Nabdeen is for the final scenes of 6.1.
I'm sorry, hate.
Nabdeen. Fair, I guess. I feel like, the name sticks out though, so I feel like I would have remembered the name, but...
Who is Nabdeen, Mela?
Nabdeen?
Yeah.
an Aura.
Yes.
Yeah.
NPC in Final Fantasy. The man who you remember when you went to the
I love that we're
place where the
grilling
birds are. You know the place where the hatchery place is. When you went there with Vought and Vashon was there. He was one of the guards. He's like the captain of the guards or whatever.
Yeah.
He's captain of. I can't remember the name of
The Radiant.
the guard. The Radiant. Host.
You might remember him as the man with no texture to his face.
Yes, he's the smooth. Yeah. He's a smooth face man.
Yeah. Okay. Yoshi.
Set beside the really ugly man to take a bit of the focus away.
Yes. Okay, Yoshida, on that Y'shtola scene, I was really at a loss of what to do. There was a part of me that felt, aren't we getting a bit carried away here? One point we pay attention to is not to turn Y'shtola into a joke. For sure, within the community, you've got things like people calling her mummy.
What?
But it would be wrong to indulge that.
I agree, it would be wrong to indulge that.
Properly speaking, we should
They've indulged it before.
Properly speaking, we should handle Y'shtola's character properly, and I don't much like just drawing on this one character trait. So, I felt this is the breaking point, and we shouldn't go further than this. By the way, I hear Y'shtola's voice actor, Kayano Ai, performed a lot of different takes on this scene. He continued, I'm thinking we should stop breaking the characters any more than this. This time, it ended up with Y'shtola having a magical girl face where she was self-consciously cute. Laughs bitterly.
I would laugh bitterly.
This was not his favorite scene.
Probably, yeah, I can say that.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily fit her character.
I agree with him because it's hard when you're doing it, like, it was probably hard when you were, like, directing an MMO and the community has all these, like, memes with the characters and, like, oh, this mummy, Y'shtola's like, oh, and maybe the dev team's like, maybe we should put some of that in, like, as Easter eggs. But in the end, you're kind of breaking like you said, you're breaking the character just for a joke. And
I think this is fine because it's contextual. It's placed contextually with what Y'shtola was like as a child, which is fair because a lot of people were like cringy as children.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
It's not the worst thing they could have done, but
if she came up with this in her like 20s, then that'd be immersion or character breaking.
Yeah. On the treasure hunt dungeons, he hints that the dialogue about Oriange and the Loporrits is tied to future updates. The next update will be in line with what's come before, but in the longer term, he's thinking about adding some different types of gameplay to treasure hunts.
Necessary, I would say, especially for the pre-dungeon phase.
Yeah. That's interesting, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That they're not just gonna, like, just shove out, like, a new roulette, thing and be like, treasure hunts updated.
It does sound like we are getting the roulette wheel, but then they're gonna get something else after that.
Yeah,
the roulette wheel's the best one.
Well, we have to get the roulette. You can't take content away from us. We still expect the roulette.
I mean, I don't think people would complain if they took the two-hallway system away from us.
No, that's true.
Well, let's not start on the three-hallway system for the super rare maps.
Right.
But we don't have that anymore.
No,
they did actually take that away from us.
Yeah.
It's very unfair. Too hard.
Okay, the interviewer brings up the 6.1 Void Scenes links to Final Fantasy IV and Golbez. Yoshida is pretty coy in his response, but does mention in the previous discussions that Endwalker is a homage to Final Fantasy IV. In 6.0's main story, this was perhaps less than people expected, but the Final Fantasy XIV team is aiming to pay off people's expectations in that regard. So, for those that were still questioning whether or not this was an actual Final Fantasy IV reference for some reason, I have seen that. There you go. Done.
What were people thinking it was, if not a 4 reference?
I don't know. They're like,
one reference?
No, because they're like, it could be one. Like, it could be, like, and I'm like, Endwalker was just a big 4. It's supposed to be a 4 reference. We're on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue it as 1, though.
But now we know. It isn't. Mm-hmm. It is 4. And there's going to be more 4 stuff.
A Stranger of Paradise reference.
Yes,
I wouldn't be against that.
What are they, Lunafarians or whatever? Maybe they're gonna.
I wouldn't be against it because it would bring Stranger of Paradise further into the canon, which will annoy Mela.
Yeah.
Push it away.
What were they called? Luciferians? I don't remember.
Lufarians.
Something like that.
Something like that. We're already forgetting Stranger of Paradise lore. I don't think anyone cares. Lufenians. Thank you. That's what it was. Okay. On Aglaya, this time an unnamed junior writer who was noted for their work in 5.x on the Beast Tribes and so on was given the challenge of stepping up and writing the scenario for this alliance raid. Ishikawa and Yoshida made various outlines for the story, and this was weaved together with the junior writer's ideas. That's nice.
That's nice, other than the fact that they've censored this person. It was a good storyline.
It's weird that they. I mean, Yoshi-P probably just didn't mention them by name, sadly.
Yeah. Poor lad.
So this is the next one. Yeah, go on.
I think we're on a good path through Aglaya. I don't know what to think of that Rogadin lady that they introduced towards the end of this part of the Aglaya storyline. She's very strange. I need more context for her. Or is she just going to turn into like the sunglasses wearing Viera that Mela doesn't like?
Yeah.
She could. She's very like airy and then suddenly just, right, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, this next one caused a little bit of outrage. It is implied the 12, specifically mentioning Nofika, could look different than the in-game depictions we've seen from their worshippers so far. They could even have a different gender.
That's so interesting, because the whole point that we went through in the Aglaya storyline was researching them and like, they do look kind of similar to the statues and like tributes that we've made to them since then.
Yeah.
It would be strange to be like, we got all 11 of the depictions right, but Nofika, we were wrong on that one. It was actually a dude. Like, if they hadn't started the storyline with everyone looking pretty much how we expected, that would be a more interesting comment, but it's very unusual just to say that.
Hey, maybe Nofika's just a cross-dresser.
Maybe. Well, and they fooled mortals, and that was like their big aim.
Maybe they got their jollies out of there. Maybe they enjoyed them. They thought it was funny.
It's the jokes.
They're gods. They don't have like. They fucking lied to us about wanting to take over the world. What do they care?
Yeah, that's true.
They wanted to be known as the matron for all time.
Yeah.
But really, they were the master.
Also remember that this could just also be Yoshi-P just throwing us off or something. I don't know. He sometimes he says things that isn't.
I do agree with you there. It's just weird that he highlighted Nofika.
Yeah.
That's true.
But
that's
don't
true.
worry, guys. Menfina. Don't you worry. The love is going to be...
Isn't it also strange, though, that, like, Nofika... again, this mentioning Nofika specifically, considering she's, like, considered the matron of the 12 as well?
Is it because the artwork of her is especially booberific?
Yeah.
That they're just trying to tone down your expectations.
Yeah.
Like, they're not all just going to be big,
calm down
men and women.
I'm surprised by that. If that is the case, kind of surprised that none of them are booberific? Surely one of them is. That just feels like character design in this game.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure one will be.
Yeah.
It'll be Menfina.
Okay, we're moving on. Yoshi-P didn't think Nald'thal would be so popular compared to Azema. He's impressed by the amount of fan art of the 12 since Aglaya released and the positive and the positive fan reception. The scales mechanic started out quite unforgiving, so it took quite a while and quite a bit of work to figure out how to adjust it.
Yes, because it doesn't require exactly an even amount on each side, thankfully, because that would have been torturous to do with 24 random people.
Yeah.
I have seen Nald'thal be probably the most popular of the 4 from this raid tier.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of artwork or just general reception?
In terms of artwork. I've seen the most artwork of Nald'thal, then maybe Azema after that.
I think he's the most interesting design.
I mean, he's also got the most interesting fight, and he's the only one with a unique battle song, so he's given a lot of focus in the raid.
Yeah.
I think that the fact that he thought Azema was probably going to be the most popular is probably why we get her minion.
Oh,
That could be true.
Yeah, true.
It's kind of a little bit Suzaku-esque. I feel like we've seen Azema already.
She's another fiery lady.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to something completely different now. Crystalline Conflict. Just the planning stage took around a year. The team in charge of PvP don't just work on PvP, but all sorts of other battle content and job design. So it wasn't constant planning for the entire year, but it still took quite a while.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, they were making a brand new thing, so...
PvP mode.
Yeah.
I'd be worried if they would spend their entire time on PvP.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's where Tanaka is.
Yes. The first decision in the planning stage was to get rid of role bindings, as in feasts where teams had to have tanks and healers. The starting point was to give each PvP job self-heals and to make their skills job-specific rather than role-specific.
A clever move. Maybe a bit confusing for healers to adjust.
Yes. It is weird not having to heal everyone. Although it is still expected, obviously, because you have healing spells. But
you have some in your kit, but it's not like the focus anymore.
No. After this initial plan, there were various ideas, such as Blue Mage only PvP. The idea was for it to be a battle royale style game with a large arena in a gradually narrowing area. Instead of picking up weapons, you'd use Blue Mage's learning ability and fight with the abilities you learn.
This
I would like
is really cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've put this out there into the universe is very dangerous of them.
I would love that mode.
That's pretty wild. Yeah, what did they...
just like a massive arena that is like inhabited with like just random enemies that have blue mage skills. You seek them out, and then also maybe when you kill other people, you get their blue mage skills as well.
Yeah.
They drop them all on the floor, and then you can be like, "Oh, I got Night Blue Merly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go kill some noobs."
Yes.
I'd really love that.
Yeah. For the main non-Blue Mage PvP mode, it was considered at one point to narrow things down to only 8 jobs. However, the team in charge of PvP emphasized that people will want to play their own jobs in PvP. The team has been able to give the jobs very distinct abilities with their limit breaks, some that otherwise would have been hard to fit into an MMORPG, such as Dragoon going invincible for a while with their jump limit break.
And Dragoons are just Doomfist when they're limit breaking.
Fun.
Yeah.
It's unique to just see this like circle on the floor and you can move around. I wouldn't want it at 8 jobs, so. But when I first read this, I thought he meant they should scale the feast back to 8v8v8 or whatever, and I was like, yeah, that you should do that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It was so much better.
I guess. Was it really though? Like for the feast?
Yeah, for Frontlines.
Oh, Frontlines. Oh yeah, no, that was better.
You made them. You actually mattered.
Yeah,
and the fights weren't just zergs. It was much better.
Yeah. Regarding Dragon Song, he praises the skill of raiders, since the new ultimate is even harder than Unending Coil of Bahamut. For the next ultimate, it may be hard for the team to keep making this level of difficulty each time.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Because it have to be that level of difficulty every time, as long as it's very, very hard.
No, the main difficulty is figuring out the gimmicks, and I guess it's hard to come up with interesting gimmicks.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. It was Nakagawa, aka Mr. Ozuma's idea for the Heavensward story to play a big part in the Dragon Song Ultimate. This was the idea from the very start. There are already ideas for the next Ultimates after the 6.3 one, but the team are discussing whether to calm things down for the time being, since making it with so much story each time might be hard.
Still expecting my Warring Triad one.
Yeah.
The Warring Triad one could be pretty interesting, but I would fully accept just ultra hard versions of the 3 fights. Maybe with
kind of boring.
What would be like the tie-in at the end?
Up to some sort of Kefka.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah.
And we can just have it as like.
I was just thinking about Mericid,
We could, we can just have the wandering minstrel just like say, "This is a tale I heard from some talking robot
Right. Yeah. Okay, the last part is a little... I don't fully understand. The devs are going to experiment with implementing adventurer plates into other content. Oh, actually, I understand it now. Starting with 4-man dungeons in a way that doesn't interfere or interrupt players' experiences. I'm assuming the dungeon starts by showing the plates, like in PvP?
Yeah, similar to how PvP does it. That'd be very cool.
That would be interesting.
I guess.
But maybe a bit obnoxious sometimes, but they should do it like Lost Ark at the end, where it's like highest damage, Mail of Vana'Diel, and then best tanking.
You just want to be praised.
Yeah.
I mean, if they do, because every dungeon starts with like duty commence. So like,
but it has to not cut through anything.
It has to.
No, I agree.
We are
it has
held
to be that
in
same
place.
length of time.
Yeah,
it can't be any longer than that.
We're always held in place for a set amount of time, like at the start of a dungeon.
Yeah, during the bit before the portal thing disappears.
Yeah,
keeps
don't add any wait time to show them. Also,
but don't cover up the screen either.
Yeah, don't cover the screen. Maybe have it like smaller. Like I don't know.
I don't mind them covering the screen at the start of the dungeon because like
it's your first
enemies. I mean, if it's after you've already got your opening scroll, if this is your first time, you've had a look at the dungeon.
Oh, okay. So you mean once like the dungeon just starts and you're actually controlling the character? Oh no, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, but don't cover the cutscenes.
There's normally like a good like couple of seconds before you encounter your first group of mobs.
Yes.
Where like even if there's something covering the screen, you know the general direction. It's not like you're going to be so thrown off that like you'll have to freeze in place.
No.
That's true.
I think it'll be fine. And a good idea, I guess. Add some more life to dungeons at the beginning anyways. And it also introduces you to your teammates for the dungeon. Okay, well that is all she wrote. That's it for this episode of Speakers of Hydaelyn, episode 302. On this beautiful June 4th. I don't know what I'm doing. Remember to follow on Twitter at SpeakersXIV, twitch.tv/Speakers of Hydaelyn, youtube.com/SpeakersXIV, exclamation Discord in chat if you're watching live. If you're watching on demand, links in the description. Remember to send us MogMail, speakersXIV.com/MogMail. If you're watching live, post-show is about to begin, so make sure you catch that. We'll see you there. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hey.